Good morning, TriWizard champions. I'm Scarlet Snape, and today we are going to be talking about defense against the dark arts. Obviously, as this competition can get fairly dangerous, it's important that you have a basic understanding on how to defend yourself. The first thing we'll be going over are some of the most influential texts in the subject. The Dark Forces, A Guide to Self-Protection by Quentin Trimble is a classic. Now, why this text is important is because you can understand the dark arts and know them on a basic level, but unless you know how to defend yourself from those things you're learning about, then ultimately it's pointless. This text goes through counter curses, hexes, and mental magic. It's important to be able to control your mind in situations where you're under stress or when you're fighting an enemy. Another text is The Essential Defense Against the Dark Arts by Arsenius Jigger, and this is particularly about fighting the dark arts, commonly used for third-year students. In the 1900s, one of the most pivotal authors in the area of dark arts was Galata Merithought. She wrote two books, Defense Against the Dark Arts and Advanced Defense Against the Dark Arts, in the early 1900s, both of which were used by Albus Dumbledore when he was teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts at Hogwarts. These texts focus on using charms to counter dark magic, as well as being able to keep your magic pure when fighting dark magic, and how you can make sure that you don't interact with the hex. Once you are able to discern dark magic, or possibly an object that has dark magic in it, you are able to go to the next level of dark art, which is resisting hexes and actually fighting various dark magic creatures. The most important text when it comes to these various tactics is Confronting the Faceless, and it was actually used by my husband Severus when he was teaching Defense Against the Dark Arts. He used it for the 6th year classes. This text covers a wide range of topics in advanced Defense Against the Dark Arts. One of the most important skills in this text is defending oneself against Dementors. Now, we're all familiar with Dementors' role in Voldemort's army, but turns out their history goes back quite a while. The first known encounter of Dementors was actually Cruciatus's on his island, now known as Azkaban. He practiced a lot of dark arts, and that is where these creatures kind of spawned from. Now, these are wraith-like creatures. They feed on human happiness and emotion, leaving the victim, the shell of them former self. They'll have possibly a vegetative state, high counts of depression, and generally just be a shell of who they were before. In 1718, Damocles Rao had the idea to use Dementors to guard Azkaban as a prison. The Wizarding community thought that this was a good idea because it protected them from coming to the mainland, and they felt safer knowing that prisoners were being looked after by these wraith-like creatures. Albus Dumbledore was one big proponent of not trusting these creatures, not interacting with them. He did not approve, and eventually they joined the side of Voldemort, and since then they have not been used in the judicial system. At this point, you've already had your training on the Patronus charm, and that is the essential defense against Dementors, as well as realizing that they cannot have power if you do not give it to them, and keeping your thoughts positive and having, again, a high control of brain magic. Another dark creature that you must be able to defend yourself against is the Imperi. Now, Imperi are reanimated corpses, so they're the bodies of lost souls that are then used usually in a soldier-like army situation. It requires the art of necromancy to reanimate a corpse, and famously Grindelwald was said to have an animated corpse army. It was not confirmed. He believed that the Resurrection Stone would give him this ability, but of course the Resurrection Stone does not bring back the bodies of those who have passed. It just brings back their souls for a moment to be spoken to the living. Now, a dark wizard who did in fact use Imperi is Voldemort in the First Wizarding War. He had reanimated the bodies of people who had gone missing during the war, and when he was defeated, he placed them in the lake where he hid Slytherin's locket. We of course remember when Harry and Dumbledore had to defend themselves against them when they were retrieving the locket, and as we saw, Dumbledore cured a ring of fire. Fire is the easiest way to defend yourself against an Imperi. It can be used one-on-one, or as seen, you can make a tornado of fire depending on your strength and your ability to keep the curse steady. If you become unsteady when cursing, then your accuracy is not going to be as good, and you could potentially hurt yourself and also not be able to defend yourself. In 2014, the Haitian Quidditch team was accused of using Imperi to intimidate other teams. This was originally discounted until the 2014 Quidditch Cup, when a bunch of them got loose and there were unfortunately 300 casualties from shock and bites. Two of the most advanced forms of magic that are discussed in this text is how to resist the Cruciatus curse and the Imperius curse. The Cruciatus curse is primarily used for torture, but in some cases has been used to make a victim go insane. A case of that is seen with Frank and Alice Longbottom. As the Cruciatus curse is not a physical curse, it actually stimulates the victim's pain receptors. It has been described as being the feeling of a million white-hot knives stabbing into your skin. The curse itself was designed in the early medieval era as a form of torture during duels to get an honest answer, to have an honest competition. In 1717, it was deemed as unforgivable, inhumane, and thus became an unforgivable curse that can sentence you to a life sentence in Azkaban. One of the most powerful assets to have on hand in case of a Cruciatus attack is nerve replenishing potion. Now, in some cases, this is used to regrow nerves. In the case of treating Cruciatus attacks, it helps to calm the nerves down. Again, as it is not a physical attack, you do not need to regrow new nerves. You just need to calm the nerves that you already have. It is also common for people to use dreamless sleep to give their body back that energy that they lost during the attack. There's also a form of meditation that has been proven successful during an attack where the wizard is able to separate their mind from their body and release themselves from the experience until the attack ends. Some witches and wizards believe that the best way to build an almost tolerance to the curse is to expose yourself to it a little bit at a time. In the case of the Imperius curse, it too was created in the medieval era as a form of slavery and was also outlawed in 1717 as being seen as unforgivable. In the case of this curse, it is more common for there to be people who can resist it. Much like the case with the Cruciatus, slow exposure to the curse as well as strong occlumency skills have been seen to be helpful in counteracting it. Ideally, you want to be able to resist the charm long enough to counter it. It has commonly been used against secret keepers to try to reveal the secrets that they keep, but this kind of magic does actually not work because a secret keeper must willingly give up the secret. It is common for witches and wizards under trial to claim that they were under the influence of the Imperius curse. For example, Lucius Malfoy and some fellow Death Eaters claim that they were under the curse after Voldemort's first defeat. That is it for today's class champions. Now comes the questions. First question, name one author of a pivotal defense against the dark arts text. Number 2, what is the best defense against Inferi? And number 3, in what era were the Cruciatus and Imperius curses created? 6 points to the first person with 3 correct answers, 4 points to the second, and 2 for every correct answer after that. A current points total will be included in the comments. Best of luck, champions.